Today we are in Fort Bragg, California at Triangle Tattoo and Museum talking to the illustrious Mr. G, who has been tattooing for quite some time now and also curates his museum. And as I understand, part of the Tattoo History Archive is your domain. So tell me all about how you got into doing a museum.
We started by visiting with an apprenticeship over 40 years ago. And that included being introduced to Chuck Eldridge, Captain Don, and Lyle Tuttle. And Lyle Tuttle had a beautiful museum. So every chance we had, we would run to San Francisco. We live about 3.5 hours from there. And it was more fun when you're younger to run down the highway losing mufflers and shit. Paying for gas and hopefully got enough to get home, shit like that. But anyway, Lyle was a great inspiration. He was very open to sharing as long as you threw $1 in his container that they blocked you to turn the lights on. You had to go in and turn the lights on yourself and put your money in the old thing for money off of one of the buses. But then, man, it was so beautiful in there. It was everything. He had things you could touch, like fucking who was that guy? One of his mentors had a tennis racket. It was a stun gun, and it just plugged right in the wall, so he could handle that, not get electrocuted too bad. Anyway, it was everything. Neon signs. He had he had 2 of those Tower records, 3 of them, full of flash on, shrink wrapped on fucking hardboard, and you could pick them up and look at them. It was so beautiful. He didn't care if you took a photograph. We didn't have cameras, but it was wide open. And then he'd come in and monkey around, tell you stories and shit. We must have gone there a dozen times before the earthquake, which was in 1989. He got shut down right after the earthquake. But we'll go over and talk to Chuck on the other side of the bridge over in Berkeley. And he had everything. He had so much stuff from Sailor Jerry and Paul Rogers and people I didn't know at the time. And he had file cabinets all organized so well with different albums and stuff. You could open up and look at actual pencil drawings and Sailor Jerry or whoever else you were interested in. And he was a fountain of information. So that's how we got started, just doing that. And Lyle and Bert and Chuck gave us some gifts, and that was the beginning of the collection. And Bert had quite the collection, and I'm talking about Bert Rodriguez. That was my mentor, tattooing since 1963 or something like that. Still tattooing. He's an inspiration. That's where we got started. And collecting has just come in little things. We didn't get a lot of things donated, but we did get some things from Israel, from Sailor Moscow, David. And he was moving to Thailand, and so he was unloading things. He gave it to us almost as a gift, and we kind of helped pay for his trip to Thailand. And we had a lot of things from Europe from him. Then the other things, I got some things from, I always got to say that. I've been doing that in 40 years.
Just to be clear that the we is Mr. G's partner, Madam Chinchilla, who is also curator of the museum and obviously longtime tattoo artist herself and part of Triangle Tattoo. I'm sorry that I did not introduce her previously, but she'll be in another conversation that we have.
Right. She's kissing the age of 80, so she's showing me what it's going to be like. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's what you get for being a toy boy, right?
Anyway, so
yeah, because Bert Rodriguez was actually both of your guys' mentors, I understand it, and you guys went to Thailand at some point together.
Yes, after we knew each other 4 years. I can't remember which year. We went twice. 1990 is the last time we traveled, and that was with Bert. And we went to Thailand, and that same year we went to Amsterdam and Japan. And it was a busy week. No, I just
right. I think that's where I
You
met
spent
you in
a
Amsterdam, that particular run, right?
and you were just a kid.
I
You were a
was just a kid.
you were a teenager, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
That was the Paradiso in Amsterdam in, '89, I wanna say,
That
or
was
90.
great. That
Yeah.
was great exposure.
Mhm.
The, we met outside, they cleared the hall, and we went outside, and the press was all out there, so we got to hear people talking to the press. When they left, we got to talk to the press, but it was, uh, it was good exposure for both of us, or all of us, yeah. 3 or 4 of us left. I think Chuck was left out there for a while, and me, you, and Chinchilla. A few people from Europe, which I met, and they have those Italian names, Mario and
Well, and they also had Ed Hardy and a bunch of other American heavy hitters there at the time, which late '80s, early '90s. There were not very many tattooers world over, and the people that came to Europe and did these expos were, hugely influential people for their time in their own
yeah,
styles.
yeah, that was great to be around them. And back then it was pretty open for conversations. You could learn a lot. Yeah, the first convention I went to was in 1987 to San Diego. I got to meet Colonel Todd, Paul Roger, all these people, and they're standing around a real quiet bar inside the convention. I got to hear all kinds of things. Mike Malone was there,
Right.
and they're all talking about machines, and I'm like a fly on the wall. I was standing in the conversation, but I just was all ears, took it all in, and I go, someday some of this stuff will hit again. When I need something in my mind, I go, oh yeah, Paul said this, or Todd said that, and that was good shit.
Probably led to you becoming a machine builder yourself and building the infamous Joltomatic, for example.
You know what? Tattooing so slow right now. I think I'll get back in it.
Right.
I still have lots of little blanks of steel, brass. No, not so many brass. Not aluminum, but maybe I have to look through a pile of shit to find it. In my kitchen, I'm reminded because I have a whole machine shop in the kitchen.
What was, when you started building machines, I mean, who was your biggest influence on what kind of geometry did you use for them?
I I used a simple geometry from Big Joe Kaplan, and that stuff is almost similar to Paul Rogers. And I just warped it slightly a little by I changed the front spring. I made it a little lighter and kept the stroke kind of medium on everything. And then it would fire when the spring went up. It would be making contact quicker than a stiff spring. Stiff spring hits and bounces, hits and bounces. That's too fast for me. That's too fast for powder shading. So I like the softer machines, and I'm slow anyway. So I've always tattooed slow because I daydream in the middle or have an imagination. How's that? I'm busy talking all the time.
Yeah. But those machines ran on 12 volts anyway, or do run on 12 volts. So, I mean, they were just moving more slowly, hitting more gently, basically, with
Yes,
the
yes,
different spring setup.
of course I've had some stiffer machines too. Different size coils. There's all kinds of tricks, but I always use the basics, which I don't understand. All these new people making machines where they throw the bar way back and then they curve their contact out about straight parallel almost instead of it's supposed to go directly to the spring or to the front spring. It's always been that way. The front spring in that line should be close to where your needle bar is. But now they got them here and there. They got shit thrown up, and then they go, "Oh, my machine! I have to run it faster. I have to run it slow." And I'm going, "Why don't you just set up the basic geometry and use a diamond and nickel and start there?" They got this shit cocked everywhere, and it's good. They're experimenting. Of course, I did too. That's the thing about machine building is you feel confident to fuck with stuff. Oh, and the other thing about machines is collecting. I have some machines from Piercy Waters and Charlie Wagner, Temp K, Jonesy. I have some machines that have never been fucked with. They've been used, but they've never been touched by modern tattoo artists. They're ready to run, and they run on AC. So sometimes I run them just with what I have, but they'll give you a spark. But the AC runs better, and you can study those machines. You can see the spring tension. You can eyeball the length of everything, and quality of the springs, and you learn a lot just looking at history.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, heavy American irons, I see them getting much, much smaller now. I see people using these tiny, tiny machines with tiny, tiny coils, and I mean, I don't know that they don't work as well per se, but it's just not something that I'm
Too
used to
fast.
seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to turn them some bitches up
Mhm.
to work, and I'm not fast. That's crazy shit. I see some of this stuff. Anyway, the rotaries, I went to rotaries because I had back surgeries and ergonomics and everything. And I just liked them because I could hold more pigment. I have to dip so often. And I'm still learning how to use those. I mean, I used coil machines for 35 years. And now I'm trying to use these machines, but I just go on the internet and things pop up when I'm just wanting to look at chihuahuas on the internet. A fucking machine thing, somebody showing you how to do it will pop up. I go, what the hell are they doing? They have their needles hanging out there about a half inch, and I'm going, and they're not stretching. And I go, what the fuck is going on? And they're promoting themselves as rock stars or whatever, and they aren't even tattooing correctly. And I'm not bitching about it, but I'm just amazed at what's going on and how everything's getting lost. Everything's getting lost, except some people have a lot of respect for old timers. And Bert and Good Time Charlie, people like that are still around. And that was a generation that was between the real old timers and the new people that started out in the 80s like us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, but like you say, they do have a lot of information and things that, whether we embrace their technology or not, I think it's good to know about it. And especially like you say, working skin and
Mhm.
the way that these machines, the older machines at least, were set to run. I mean, they were all very targeted in their job, and that was kind of
Right, right,
important to be able to, not just start the machine and have the windows rattling, but actually start the machine and have it, ready
right.
to go
Yeah,
in whatever job it was doing.
yeah.
And the pens are different. I mean, my personal thing with a pen, I struggle with them sometimes for the same reason. I used coils for a long time. And the other day I figured out for the first time why it is that they're so difficult. For me, it's because I can't cinch that needle down and just go
Yeah,
for it and run that
yeah,
line.
yeah.
It's all
Put
the
that rubber
machine
band on.
controls it.
There's a lot of controls you don't have with them.
Mhm,
And then everything's in those cartridges. You
mhm.
can't see anything, how it's acting or, they pick up lint a lot for me. And that's my problem. They don't feed pigment after a while. There's lots of little tricks to that, but you're
Yeah.
already deep in a bunch of stuff by the time you figure all that out. I'm pretty good at recognizing that in line work now because I never had a line where you wipe it and it's not there in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think it's like we were driving Mercedes for 30 years and then somebody gave you a Mini Cooper and said it'll do the same thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
in theory.
Yeah.
But I think the older machines all had a personality. We all
They
had our
did.
favorites that each had their little thing, and they all had
Yeah.
some kind of weird shit that they do every once in a while. But you were like, oh yeah, this thing, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now blow that out. Wait. Oh, look, I got a wire shorted out or something.
Mhm.
That's crazy shit in the old days, not that old. 40 years ago to go to a convention and see somebody struggling with their machine. Some of the greats, I've seen them struggling with their machines and they're running like shit. You see sparks coming off of them and shit, and they're sweating bullets, and yet they pulled off nice work.
Right.
And I'm friends with Henry Goldfield, and I've watched him work before. And I go, how the fuck is he doing that? The machine is crazy. Has everything's mucked up. And the old days, they used to bend their needle bars all crazy and shit to get them to work. And I'm going, they can do it no matter what they're using. Same thing with Lyle. It's like a great guitarist, and they have a shitty guitar. They can still make it sound good, and
Yeah.
that's the real lesson.
Yeah, and I think also you know what you're looking for. You know what you want it to look like when it's in the skin. And so the minute that that's not happening, you're trying to figure out why. And I
Exactly.
think, I don't really understand the newer pen generation of people, how they actually identify that and or fix it because I'm not part of all of that, right? But it
Right.
seems that it's just an entirely different mechanics of working.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea of the old days. I keep saying that. I'm trying not to be a fucking old guy, but anyway, we used to have our machines that were favorites, and well, I had some great machines for uh, round shading. I don't know if people even did that when I started. I mean, they skipped away from it, came back to it, but the big round shaders for like a 9 or 13 or something like that. And then I had one for powder shading or wide color. I could use it just by turning it up. I could put the color in, but I could also slow that down to about 4 volts and do some beautiful, beautiful powder shading. And I miss that. Do you have fine powder shadings hard with your pins?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Horribly.
But I'm learning. I've actually gone and watched some of these YouTube videos now. So but yeah, I mean, with the days before magnums is what you're talking about. If people actually believed that that existed, yeah, flats and 5 spreaders, for example.
Yeah. You know what I have? I have some old needles from the 20s in a kit. They were making 10s back then, flat 10s.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't doing the magnums, but they had some wide shaders.
Yeah.
And they had some wide tubes. And it's funny to see that those things came from Charlie Wagner or Tempe. I don't know which ones they came from. The lessons or the jigs were, but the tubes, some of the tubes came from Russell too, but they were modified for 10 needles.
Yeah.
That's crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I guess when they were experimenting what kinds of needles, because in the beginning it was just one needle and that's what you had.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. And there were guys even in the 80s working where they used just literally the 3-liner to do the entire tattoo,
Yeah.
color and
That
all.
good. Yeah. It works. It's slow, but it works great. I've seen some beautiful work that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you get your first tattoo?
Me?
Yeah.
Gosh, I was 17 years old. I was shit-faced drunk and I was in a place in Brighton somewhere and it seemed like a good idea at the time. And you?
Well, I got mine and I must have been 23, 1973. Anyway, but the scab was so cool with that. Don't touch the scab. I'm looking at it and looking under it. And it was like a little sweet colored cookie up there. Yeah, I'm going, don't pick it. And I didn't, but I had it in the sun a lot. I had Bert to redo it and like when it was 20 years old or something. Of course, I worked construction, so I was out there no shirt all the time on that little tat. It was a little girly tattoo. It was in fashion when Rolling Stones started a whole trend there. Rock stars getting cute little, like Janis Joplin and Peter Fonda.
So is that how you met Bert, getting tattooed by him, or did you meet him some other different way?
No, I was looking into apprenticeship. I lived in Seattle and I was on the Pike all the time. So I think there was Danny Danzel and Ace Tattoo was on that street next to Danzel's. And that was Nolan. So Nolan was there. And anyway, so I think I went into Nolan's shop, but I followed Danny Danzel around a lot. We ate at the same diners, went to the same bars. And I just was amazed at him. He was quite the well-liked character. And it was just from a different world because of the voice thing and the ascot and the fedoras with automotive metallic paint. And I finally got to meet him after I started working for Bert. I think Bert worked in Seattle at that time, but I never crossed paths with him.
Okay, yeah, I heard Danny Danzel was one of those guys that he didn't say a whole lot, but when he did, you paid attention.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, like call a tattoo machine a tattoo gun. That's a good lecture I got pretty early on. And with that voice box and all that shit, it was like, whoa. And then he had the piranha's tank there circling around for tattoo removal. And he had them in there a long time. Right. They were big.
Obviously well fed, right?
Yeah. So, I felt so embarrassed and humiliated and getting my ass chewed out, but that's a good lesson.
Yeah. So tell us about that lesson, basically, the whole why you should never call a tattoo machine a gun.
Well, I think the word gun came from a bad background of scratchers and prison artists. And it's not that. It's a machine. And it's a respectful way of calling it. I've told young people at conventions that were in a booth next to me or something, that's not what you should be calling it. You should be calling a machine. They go out of their way to call it a fucking gun, the whole convention. And you know what? This, you're not with it, you're not for it, right?
And that was also the Captain Don painting that was my favorite out of your collection, which basically says to call one's mother a whore is a lesser crime than to call the sacred instrument of tattooing a gun.
Yeah, yeah. And I heard that every day when he was around.
Yeah.
Because he would tell any customer was waiting or something. He had 2 or 3 lines and they would look at him like, who is this tattooed guy? Heavily tattooed. But he was just that stage character, like a movie star in a sense. When he talked to you, you go, who is this guy? And he would tell him that, and he would tell him how to take care of it afterwards. Keep that thing out of the fucking sun.
So Captain Don Leslie, famous sword swallower, and I'll let you tell us all about him because you know a lot more about him than we do.
Well, I met him when I was going to Lyle's and Henry's and Chuck's, and he needed a ride to go visit himself. So we'd usually meet him down by Henry's and take him over to see Erno or usually go across the bay. Being in the car was total story time and all the history of him traveling. So he started traveling with the circus in 1954, 53, started working in the circus. He got child protection arrested him and sent him to foster home for a while. And then he escaped and went and, or traveled again. He did everything. His thing that he liked the most was feeding the elephants, taking care of the elephants. He had a real spiritual bond with them because when he was in there alone and he was with the elephants. He was just scooping the shit and talking to them and stuff. So years later, when he went to the South Sea Island with Circus Bruno, he met the elephant that he had first met years and years ago. Yeah, and that elephant and him are just like old friends. And he's like taking the elephant around and just holding a little string for a thing to kind of control it. But the elephant just followed him around. And then the characters that were around back then. He was in the sideshow, and there was always tattoo artists in the sideshow and showing their wares and then tattooing in between shows. His best friend was Betty Broadbent, and she took him in as a mother at that young age and kept him from getting his ass beat up because he was a punk. He was a young guy in the circus. And those old timers never had time. They would knock the shit out of it if you messed up physically. And she protected him, and they became really, really close. It was like a adoptive mother.
She was a tattooed circus lady at the time, or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And she tattooed also. People lost that history. We got people snotting out on us because they said that she didn't tattoo. A lot of the women attractions did tattoo. And it's funny how they tried to block that out of history. It's hard to find, but most of them did. Yeah, but he had great mentors. Some of the mentors came from the late 1800s. They were still doing it in the 50s. So he spanned a big generation of history there. And that's one of the reasons we hung out with him. He'd introduce us to people. We'd give him a ride to a convention or get him a plane ticket. And we get introduced to so many old timers. And that was a good foot in the door. And it was a good friendship. We were pals. Yeah, he'd do crazy shit, like leave a cigarette on top of my TV and fall asleep and put some good marks on my windowsill. And there's still stories about him using a knife on the floor to cut shit. And, I thought he didn't do that on my new floor, but as I get older, I see the knife marks coming up.
Yeah, he used to do sword swallowing in the streets of San Francisco and stuff too, right? I mean, he was, as I understood it, one of the last surviving acts of the Ringley Circus when he passed away.
Yeah, and he did that a few years before he passed, maybe 7 years before. He was in Ringling Brothers down in Texas all summer one year, and it was a show that they went back to some of the old costumes and the old acts. It was like I don't know what they call it, tribute or legends or whatever. Yeah, he had a good time. I think that was the last straw with his throat.
Yeah. Because he would swallow what, seven swords? How many was his most swords he swallowed at any
Uh,
one time?
he mostly did 5, but he was the
Five?
first to turn him sideways while they're down there. Anyway, that used to be very dangerous, but people do it now. So many sword swallowers now, and he was a kind of a inspiration to most of them. He started showing people in the Jim Rose Circus in San Francisco. They didn't call them mud performers because they didn't do it in the tents, but they did stage acts indoor, and he did outdoor stage,
Yeah.
which is 2 different things because he had to do shit there that wasn't like just showing up and doing your act. Between acts, he had to like, help fix things and sometimes fill in for somebody that broke their leg or something, like selling candy or selling balloons.
Whatever it takes to make the circus
Yeah,
roll,
yeah, you
right?
were 24 hours a day. He learned to drive a truck when he was 15. They had to put blocks on a semi truck on the pedals so he could reach it. And yeah, he was driving the truck at 15 because some of those guys were too drunk to drive. They'd sneak out and get drunk, and then they couldn't drive a truck. So eventually he became a drunk too. He's never hid that. He, he became sober, and he was like almost a evangelistic anti-alcohol guy. Yeah, so that was interesting because he just repeated stories like we all do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And he was also a very prolific painter. I mean, there's quite a lot of those big banners out there, the sideshow banners. And you guys have some in the museum, right?
Oh, I have them in our house. Yeah, we have them in our house and stuff, and
Mhm.
it's fun to walk in a room. I like to do that sometimes when I'm talking to people right in the doorway from the museum that goes into my house, our apartment. And if they're standing there and I know they're following me with their eyes, and I'll open up our bedroom and there's 2 big banners there.
Wow. That's super
Yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, and that'll catch their eye, right?
Yeah, totally. And so you actually have quite a portion of the museum dedicated to him. So last time I was there.
He's got his own space with the circus sideshow. Other people, mostly the tattooed people in the sideshow, but there's some great pictures and their photos of all the women that were in there. What's her name? Irene Woodward or something. I had a crush on her for a while.
Who didn't, right? And his influence kind of rubbed off on you and Chinchilla. You had that pink Cadillac with boot on top of it, right?
Yeah, we still have a lot of his boots, and a couple of times like, oh, let's throw this in storage. But we dust them off, and sometimes we find a note in there. We have all these suitcases. I don't know, maybe 2 dozen suitcases and trunks, and we have never been able to get through all the things in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's we're busy tattooing and living, so you got to set us time aside. So that's fun to cherry pick those, and I'm still looking forward to opening a couple of them up.
Talking to Lal Hardy about that, the Terry Manton, who's written the book on the history of British tattooing, that he's been busily finding things like that in people's lofts, like big trunks and suitcases that are basically just packed to the gills with tattoo history stuff, and it's just really exciting to go through it and piece all these things together that have been just hidden
Yeah,
for many years,
yeah. Occasionally, I see some of those things being friends with a few collectors,
Mm-hmm.
but they usually don't put it all out there. I mean,
No.
you can't put it all out there because there's so many crooks out there.
Yeah, but a lot of it is being protected again. I mean, Jesse Knight's collection was just sold to a museum, which is it's really good to see the revival of interest in the tattoo history and people actually, wanting to curate it, take care of it more
Right.
so now. I mean, you guys have been doing it for years, but
Hmm.
it's like you lay the
Oh,
seed for it,
I could spend all day just looking and corresponding and going,
right?
but I step back and just kind of, at our age, what are we going to do with all this? Right. So we're living with it now, enjoying it.
Yeah, totally. And other people could enjoy it too. I mean, that's the thing. It's been a part of your trademark for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun to see people come in, tourists, have no idea. No idea. And some of them are very well educated. So they dive deep into some of the things from Indonesia or just old things in that late 1800s.
Yeah.
1700s. Yeah, they could dive into that very well. We've had people from like San Francisco public television up here just going nuts on it. Or we had people from the Chicago Museum that come and visit. I was on a vacation, and we were talking about Captain Don's earlier. So I have some nephew and his wife in Chicago. They went to the Museum of Natural History or whatever, and there was a Captain Don display there.
That's cool.
And they go, our uncle has some of those things. Yeah. And then I took a picture of them, and it just blew their mind. Yeah, a whole locker full of Captain Don's things.
But that's not the only part of the museum. I mean, you guys have stuff that I've seen brought in from, say, San Quentin prison, the prison tattooing equipment.
Yeah. And we have stuff we've tattooed people from San Quentin afterwards and getting a lot of history on what it's like to be in the joint. I got some pictures from Folsom. Those pictures are not supposed to be out, but these prisons always took these men that were heavily tattooed, and some of them bank robbers or thieves. Anyway, took pictures of them in a diaper, like they just wrapped this white cloth around them on the groin and their butt, and they took body pictures of them and put them in a file. And those are buried deep in the archives of these prisons. I thought that would be a great place to go dive into pictures, because those pictures are not in magazines, they're in collections. I was just real lucky that a guard snuck one out for me.
But I mean, the guards used to bring some of those things in that they'd confiscated. Some of that stuff's actually fairly sophisticated, all things considered.
Yes. Yeah. And the way to hide it is crazy. So they're all guitar strings mostly, or sometimes they use a spring out of a spiral notebook, and they use that they just keep playing with it till it's very straight. And that's crazy shit. But the way they do all that with the sophisticated things, the way they hide it is funny. I've got a whole row where, like, they've hit them in drum tobacco, they hit them in toiletry, plastic things, tiny, inside toilet paper rolls. And they're getting along with the guards. They know they're doing it, and they sometimes tattoo the guards, which is crazy.
Yeah, I heard they were making a movement at some point to try and sort of standardize tattooing in prisons a little bit, so they could at least control the health angle of it.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen that too. And not only that, it's people that are in there for life or whatever. It's
Kinda
like
bored.
art. I always thought if I went to prison, might be like King Rat.
You could be okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean,
be okay.
I've seen some amazing art come out of prisons. I mean, I remember in the early 2000s, I think it was, I would see some art in Northern California there by a man named Sleepy G, who actually
Yeah,
is currently in Yuba City, I think, tattooing. And I would look at that stuff then, this beautiful black and gray work, and just be like, if that guy ever gets out of prison, man, we are in so much trouble, because he's so
yeah,
freaking good.
they are good. A lot of that East LA, Freddie Negretti came out of prison and helped inspire this whole gray shading thing into a commercial inspiration with Ed Hardy and Jack Rudy and Good Time Charlie. And that's an interesting video to watch if you ever get it. Tattooed Nation. Yeah, that gray work and realistic work all came from East LA and came from the prisons. Isn't that crazy shit? Although I've seen some tattooed skin, not personally, but photos, and they did some beautiful work. I guess they used to use that on the ships to identify people that passed on the boat, because they didn't have good records. So the cook and the surgeon on the ship would cut their tattoos off and put them in a jar so that they got to shore, they knew who that person was.
That's pretty wild. So yeah, identifying marks for real, huh?
Yeah, and some of those old ones are so beautiful because they had all the time in the world to do the tattooing, and this detail so fine. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were doing them by hand or if they were doing them by early machines, probably by hand, but they did beautiful jobs. Anyway, I wouldn't want to live back there.
I understand that there were quite a lot of Japanese tattooers running through the American ports back in the day. on
Right.
ships and whatnot. And you have some of that in your collection too, right?
What do I have? I have a lot of Japanese, but I don't have a lot of the old things from Japan, like in that the city would have. There were some tattoo artists in the Bay in San Francisco that were at the turn of the century, the 19th century, 20th century. Yeah, turn of that one.
Oh yeah.
I just went to France, so I'm like in the 700 years
Decades.
old. How they get this nice heating element in here.
It's very handy.
But anyway, there were some great people in San Francisco that's kind of being unearthed now or shared with us. That is beautiful things to see.
Yeah.
We got Captain Don gave us some flash that I didn't know who the artist was for a year. He gave us a handwritten note of who it was. And it was Sailor Jack Howard in San Francisco in the 20s.
Oh,
And we
wow.
have five sheets of that. And in New York and in New England, they've got a bunch of those sheets, but they have the big ones that are like window shade size.
Oh wow.
It was on Pickers, and
Oh
that
really?
lady on Pickers bought it from a
Oh wow.
collection, and
Huh.
it was beautiful because they featured it. And I go, well, I don't have a big one, but we have five little ones,
Oh,
regular
cool.
size flash. Yeah, and Captain Don gave it. I bought it off him for cigarette money. Him and Lyle, and they were giving out souvenir tattoos over in his apartment in Chico. And you go in the room, and there's all these young college age tattoo artists from the area or Sacramento or the city, and partying with Captain Don and Lyle, getting these souvenir tattoos. And that's real crazy because I was there and they were young. So a few of them came over here to get souvenir tattoos from me because I was part of that party. And
Right.
I couldn't believe the smoke in that place. It was like you could,
Yeah.
like the old days, you could cut it like in the living room with mom and pop, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, but that's the
Those were
only way to
different
get
days.
your tattoo flash on the walls made look more vintage, right?
Yeah, yeah, I hate that smell.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, we have some Tex Howard flash that came through a fire, but before that, I think the acetate on it was being damaged from cigarette smoke, and then the fire finished it a little bit.
That tape is highly flammable, turns out.
Right, I've got some in the garage. I was thinking about. I don't own the garage, but I go, it'd be a good insurance thing, right? Horrible. No, I
We
would
still have
never.
enough sunshine up there to catch fire to things, so
Yeah, that
so
luckily there's a nice green barrier between us and that.
right, and a big flat ocean to wash it all down with.
Yeah,
Um, and so what other hand tattooing tools do you have there? You have Borneo and Thai tools and everything too?
yeah, yeah. And we traveled when we went in 1990 with Bert in Thailand. We were tattooed in the temple, which is almost like a Catholic ritual. It's so funny how those two religions are similar. Their temples are set up the same way almost. They're much more modest, but they're kind of open because it's so humid and hot there. But the chanting, like the Gregorian chants, the monks chanting all these prayers from Tibet. And then the instruments are just instruments, just like the Tibetan. It's not the instrument itself, it's the energy that goes through it. So they keep it at a sacred place up by where the monk does the services and stuff. And so we were tattooed there. And then we corrupted the monk and showed him how to use electric machines and gifted him electric machines. And he came be the first tattoo artist in Chiang Mai with electric machine. There was probably a couple underground Europeans there, but he quit that Buddhist stuff was too hard for him. Why not try everything? Yeah.
Well, it's being pure all the time has got to be boring at a certain point, right?
Yeah, it gets old. I think everything gets old sometimes. So then we went into the jungle too, and we were tattooed by shaman. Had these monks, they had to go deep. The thing in Thailand was always the magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the magic. And so we found the magic. It took our guides a week to find some people that were deep in the jungle through, networks of guides and
Mm-hmm.
families. And so they went and got this guy on a dirt bike, and it became dark when they brought him back. And he had they keep it on their body, the pigment. It's a little bottle, aspirin bottle or something, and it's got all this stuff in it. So they were tattooing. There's a one for snake and venom protection, and it's like a vaccine. So they tattoo people for venom pre cobra bites treatments. And I had so Bert and I had cobra venom in that pigment. We had other things like little talismans, little tiny carved ivory things of different Buddhas and different prayers, and some gold leaf prayers, and there's just all this cool shit in a pigment. But it's the same as ours. It probably came from Germany. Probably came from Germany. The modern day. Uh, yeah, the Japanese. Yeah, the Japanese make their pigment. I've witnessed that, mixing that with Horitoshi and Horiyoshi, and that's cool shit to watch him make it. It's a ceremony, and then that's usually the apprentice job. They do that. I talked to Horitoshi about that, and he said that just learning about the ink takes 7 years for an apprenticeship to learn about it, where the ceremony and the whole thing, the respect for it is, and it's the pigment is made in these caves where it's called the sumi ink, and it's made in the good stuff is made in a cave by hand. They burn 1 million candles in this one cave that has been used for centuries to make ink, and the walls are lined with sticks. So they'll just start with a little piece, and they'll keep rolling it on the wall of this cave. It's been smoothed out from wear and tear for probably over 1,000 years. Yeah, so that's some cool shit. And they just keep kneading it with their hands and feet until it's hard, and then they press it into those blocks.
No.
And,
But it's amazing. You got like all that steeped in tradition stuff, and then you have Amazon.
yeah. Yeah, and they're so cute and fancily packed. Show started saving all these nice packages that have glitter on them and cool graphics and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. You don't have to go to a cave in Japan.
Well, it's interesting, the whole thing with every part of tattooing, every piece of it has a history, the way they drew things, the little books they traveled with, and it's just amazing. You can't learn it all. I forget a lot of it. I have to relearn it, and yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
I mean,
thing.
every section of the world that has tribes and traditions of tattooing has like obviously an extensive history of all that. And we are fortunate enough to have people like Lars Krutag that'll go out there and document it
Oh,
for us,
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
and many more currently. So that's good.
Yeah, they all do good stuff. Mike McCabe in New York did one after we were in Thailand. He went to Thailand. He wrote a great book about Southeastern Asia tattoos, and all these people are doing these history books, and I can't keep up. No, it's too much going on, and it's amazing. And I some of the things I regret, and I still have to do it, is when we took on our latest apprentice. I didn't teach her how to tattoo with a coil machine. I didn't teach her how to make needles. I used to have shop people that took appointments and swept them up, and I taught them how to make needles because early days when I was traveling around with Bert, man, that was a job. That was at least a 1-day job out of your life to make needles for a show or a week, And you get pretty good at it, and we all have our little trick. It's always different.
Yeah.
And you meet other artists like Erno did his a certain way. And before they had the jigs, real common things that you could use and burn your finger and shit. And then those old traveling cases that we've collected, they had jigs and methods in there where they used white felt to hold the needles together and solder between the felt. And,
do you have any traveling cases from extremely well-known tattooers from back in the day, like older ones? Who would that be?
No, those are usually gobbled up. Yeah, I don't have anybody that I know. The one I do have is crazy. It's from the Midwest, and it's from the Cincinnati, Ohio, Pennsylvania route of the old Circus. And it's 1909 is the first date I find in there. But a guy was a coal miner and a hot shot in the coal mine, and then he tattooed at night or when they were laid off. And the box has original Charlie Wagner machines, 3 of them, and 2 temp Ks, and a Jonesy. There's 7 machines in there, so it might be 3 gifts each, the Tempe and Wagner's, but I got all kinds of pamphlets in there and needles and needle bars and little jigs. I got one that's real rare. It's a little jig for grouping needles and doing flaps. Percy Waters personally made it and stamped it. And then he wrote two pencil notes of how to hook up those old DC batteries where you had to put them in a series a certain way. He had the wire in the case for that and the note. The other thing he had was how to make those needles with pencil written notes and how to use his jig. And that's funny how that little shit is so amazingly in touch with the past. Because you know that person made all those needles.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, those tiny little tricks, that one little sentence that changes your entire life, right?
Yeah. So the way this fellow soldered it back then is he wrapped it in silk and then soldered it. So it held it together. But making the groupings and stuff is on that little jig. And had a little hole to hang it on a hook in a shop or something.
Right. This is how you do it. And now we're going to start. Yeah. That's it's a really good find, I think. Did he use the coal suit for the black ink or?
Probably Pelican. I didn't have a ink bottle in there, not necessarily. I did find some paperwork for his diary, and I had some addresses in Baltimore to go where to get some pigment, which was like an art store. But he had them written down and everything, and I don't know if the Pelican was in there or not, but yeah, he had pigment suppliers in that little notebook. Funny, he used a couple little notebooks, which were the old things that people hand out, like the feed store, the hardware store, give you a little calendar with some facts or little sayings of the year or whatever. Anyway, but I tried to follow it, and his spelling was so bad. He wasn't educated. Eagle was EGAL. And put the prices down, and it would be like $1 for a big eagle, but the guy could only pay it in payments, and he had the payments marked off, shit like that. Or somebody owed him some money for some shoes that he sold him, used shoes. But those are days when money meant something, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you could also trade for tattooing for what you really needed as well for a guy like that. Yeah, tattooing and traveling. So yeah, well, also East Coast stuff. I guess you have more West Coast tattoo history, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can't, if you're not from there, you're not going to have the connections and gifts to do. Or I consider a gift when they'll sell it to you. Yeah, I don't have passport gift.
Right.
But I have got some gifts. And the funny thing is, one person gave us a Lyle Tuttle shirt that was still in the wrapper from the old days, 70s, and they wanted it back. It's the first time I've had that happen, and that's okay. Take it back. But Bill Hill heard about that, and he donated his.
Okay,
so cool. Thanks, yeah. Carmel. Good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I guess part of how these museums become a thing at all is just to have people bringing things by and go, "No, you want this?" or "I've got this cool thing." And what's your favorite piece in the whole museum?
Oh shit! I have. Well, I say the trunk is right now on top of my list because I still am curious about it. I gave it a very locked up storage, fireproof and all that. And every once in a while I'll go out there with all Captain Don's things and the original flash. Some of the flash we put up as high quality copies because, it can be stolen. It can be in a fire. You don't want that. And some of the stuff we have here that's in my room, it's out of reach, but it's there. It's original.
Yeah.
And but the things that I most like is that trunk, and then the new things are the Captain Jack Howard stuff. Because I just realized that what a gift that was for Captain Don to give us that. Yeah, and then.
But I know you guys were on the TV. Was it National Geographic? Who was it way back when?
It was a Learning Channel, which was before, I think it was in convention with, became the Discovery Channel. Mm-hmm. And we were in a convention down in LA, and this crew came in, like a news crew, but they were from ABC and some other producer or something. And we were there, and they noticed we were hanging around, and nobody would talk to him. It was kind of rude, nobody wanted to talk about tattoos or anything. Of course, I had a couple drinks, so I'm talking a lot.
Sorry, you will talk to me.
Yeah, so they were interested in us, and they came up here and filmed, and they asked if I could bring some people in. So we brought Henry Goldfield, Bert, Captain Don, some of these prison guys. They'd killed a few people. They had the teardrops, but they made a good tattoo thing, and they're
Right.
talking getting tattooed in prison, and we made a whole show just in our shop. And the thing is that we kind of gave him the whole narrative in a way. They just said it their own way, but they just recorded Henry. He's a good talker.
Right.
And so the narratives are pretty close to tattoo artists talk and not some weirdo. Actually, that guy came back 10 years later and got a tattoo.
Oh, wow. And that was
Yeah.
like early 2000s, right? Wasn't it? When the
Oh,
TV
my God. When was that?
I
Before
think you
that,
were
in the
one of
90s.
one of the first TV shows about tattooing, I think, was you guys. 96?
97, something like that.
Okay.
And then there was another one that Chinchilla was in briefly, Women of Tattoo.
Mhm.
I forget what channel that was on. Yeah, those two. And then we had two consultants and body doubles for HBO for a series called Carnival. I'm a butt double. Chinchilla's a hand double. And so we were showing the actress, who's beautiful, how to use the thing. They wanted tapping. Well, Japanese tattoo is not tapping. It's more Indonesian.
Yeah,
So
it's
I said,
American.
these guys that brought these acts and people over, they brought everything, not just Japanese. So we taught her how to tattoo like Dayak, and we used the hammers and stuff. And we made one for Clancy Brown, who was the actor that had a rubber tip on it. And the Japanese actress used that, and they made her go topless. So I'm standing there, I'm coaching. The director's here, the director's assistant, see how authentic it is. And then they wanted to know how it would welt up and seep up during and after the blood and stuff. And so then they did my butt to do the actual action stuff. And we had this, I don't know, I've seen a few college dictionaries and a few Bibles that was about as thick as those confidentiality agreements and different. Yeah, we signed a pile of paper shit bigger than the screen.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Who did the
And it
actual
was fun.
tattooing? Did Chinchilla?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was a hand double. Yeah.
Okay.
And we got a good price for it because we didn't register to be paid exactly what the Screen Actors Guild would have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to get it right and be specialists, right?
Yeah, it was fun. But now I think they have their specialists in LA, which is much closer. I think we did this thing in Santa Clarita, which is brand new and nice. And I was a big fan of Carnival. So they took me around, showed me how they did the shots in the tattoo and traveling wagons that they had, where they put the cameras and where they did special shots that I knew from being a fan. And they built a whole damn farmhouse in one of those things and sometimes they'd move it out of sight and do the desert scenes in there. Those are big places.
Yeah.
And the food was really good. The catering was,
that's the most important part.
oh my God.
And
Yeah,
hopefully that was
they
beer.
had special chefs there. Man. I smelled some barbecue going on, and whoa, that was for lunch. And you go in and eat, and you're eating right there with the actors, the producers, the directors. And
I know, that's pretty cool.
I'm real shy, I'm kind of in the corner eating like a pig, eating my ribs. And that's messy. Anyway, that was a great experience. And so you were talking about our parts of that. So we've given a lot of stuff away for that. Things if somebody calls us on the phone like this, doing a project or doing a short film or something, we've talked to them about who to contact in their area and what's going on. And that's cool to be called for that. It makes you feel important for a half hour.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well,
Yeah,
you gather all this tattoo stuff up, and then you can't really be like, well, I don't know anything about it. It's just stuff.
Well, I've seen some fucking great collections going on now, and the one in New York. It's,
Daredevil.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
my
I was just
God,
there recently. She has an amazing collection, like
yeah.
absolutely amazing. Yeah.
And the presentation is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And for anybody who's listening who wonders where that is, that's Daredevil Tattoo in New York. Michelle Miles, who's one of the owners, has a massive collection of Lady Liberty designs and pretty
Oh,
much stuff from every tattooer that ever breathed in New York in the first half of the last century and the one before it, which is basically the birthplace of tattooing in America, right?
right, right. No, that's crazy shit. It's fun that goes on. The circle used to be so small.
And it's a small museum, but she'll walk you through it, and it's like, and then we have this, and then we have, and you're just like, what?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all of the names, the older guys that
Mhm.
basically built the tattoo scene back in the day. And
Right.
so then she also does a guided tour of the Bowery on Fridays for anyone who's
Oh,
interested, for the
my
old.
God.
Yeah, yeah.
You
She'll go
see
to
the
all the
old
places and
buildings.
be like, this used to be there and that used to be. So she knows it all. It's really nice that she's putting together such a great collection of New York history.
You know, the thing in the history also that I didn't used to happen was there's never an index in. You had to do your own index. And I knew some people that did that before there were indexes. And
Yeah.
for like, especially for history, where they do where they got the idea, where this little footnotes and stuff. And that's great stuff. But there's people that are so interested in, like, are fans of it. And so Eric the Red did a lot of books that for Tattoo Times and before they had the index and some other popular books. And he was a captain on a tugboat out in the ocean, running from Korea to Alaska, back and
Yeah.
forth. And anyway, he had lots of time.
I,
So he'd do that forever and do it with a pencil and paper. And uh, he gave us some copies, and then I found out that's what Lyle was using and Chuck was using. Yeah. Yeah. He helped us with Chinchilla's book on Captain Don to
mhm.
do the index.
Yeah.
And it's just so helpful for people that want to learn, because it helps them look at other things that they wouldn't have thought of, like a newspaper article or something in a museum.
Yes. Um, so on the subject of books, before we run away from that one, your favorite tattoo history books?
Oh my God. Well, so funny. When we started doing stuff, there were only 3 or 4 of them that were available. And I have to try to think on that one. I don't know. God, it's so hard. I think I like the one that was about somebody that's not so recognized who's from England and South Africa. And trying to
George
think of his
Burchett?
name. No, no, he was before and or friends of his. And he got in trouble. He punched an officer out in the military. So he went to Australia. Then he went to first he went to Houston, or where they had that tidal wave during the hurricane, and it was Galveston. And he met a friend of his wife who had lost all her clothes, most of her clothing been pulled off of her. She had a child by the hair, and that washed away from her. She lost her baby, and she was in a mental mess when he arrived there, and she was just wandering around looking in a rubble for her daughter. And she was an old friend, and she recognized him, and he kind of took care of her for a while. And then she became a tattooed lady. He was contemporary of the English guys in early 1900s, and great artist. J.T. J.T. Clark, and they made a book out of it a few years ago, and it's great.
Yeah.
And just peek at it if you can.
Well, I mean, an awful lot of these books are now self-published, so you either have to find them through, say, the Book Mistress or Gentleman's Flash in Europe or something. But
Uh-huh.
Lau Hardy just started a tattoo book archive on the Instagram, and he's publishing books in his collection every day, and it'll tell you on there where you can actually buy them, which is kind of super cool.
And there's a collection over in Chico, someone that was a circus sideshow guy,
Oh,
and it's a son, grandson, great grandson,
okay.
and we haven't been over to see it. It's just funny when you run a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
You take care of tattooing first,
guys are also in Fort Bragg. You know, you're the holiday town that's like 25 miles of windy, tortuous road from the main drag. So
Horrible
it's a kind of
roads.
want to go there and or want to leave.
I was we've had all this rain, and I was just thinking in my head, my refrigerator is empty, and I go, "Oh, what happens if we lose some roads?
Oh God.
I
Yeah.
can't get the food over here."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the
we
most
got
beautiful part of the country, but it's definitely isolated. So what a
that's
great
beautiful.
place to have a museum and to have a shop and have all these people come there for their like nice summer vacation and the
Oh,
coolness and just be like, hell yeah.
yeah, it's fun. We have families. Sometimes
Mhm.
the kids are good most of the time. Occasionally, people will have unmanaged kids, and
Yeah. That's always a
sometimes you got
nightmare in any tattoo shop.
yeah. So sometimes you got to put little sticker tattoos on them. The
Yeah,
young kids like to see naked women, so I have a
right.
couple tattooed. Christine the Colorful up there. They love her.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll
I
go
bet they
around the
do.
corner and bump into a mob of kids, and they go, "What are you looking at?" And yeah, it's funny.
It's fun, family fun, right?
Yeah, it's a part of growing up, and then you kind of ask them when they come in what tattoo they want.
Right.
It's funny. Some want a dragon or some cartoon that I don't
Mhm.
recognize, but
And it's the next generation, right?
yeah, I'm on the fourth generation. That's a lot.
That's pretty good going. Yeah,
Well, yeah, if you can get grandpa, then you add an extra one quick, right?
that's right. Well, super cool, Mr. G. I think we're going to wrap this little chat up and leave something for Madame Chinchilla to talk about when we get to the next round. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all your
Uh-huh.
insights into history and all that. It's super interesting, and I'm going to put the links to all of your stuff, including where your museum is, at the
Okay.
end of the interview, and so everyone can find you. So.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
It was fun being here.